and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan and it's time for the Gameweek 27 wildcard video, where I'm going to be showing you a wildcard team as well as a strategy with your chips to go alongside it to make sure you get the maximum amount out of all of your chips over the coming game weeks. I hope you're going to enjoy this one. If you do, please do leave a like and please do subscribe. Let's get on with the video. So first of all, I do just want to show you the calendar for the upcoming game weeks, because like I say, if you really want to use the wildcard to the best of its ability, it's really key that you do combine it with some other chips. So we are looking at a Game Week 27 wildcard, which is very similar to the strategy I laid out in my video in the video last week. It's pretty much the same strategy, to be fair, but with a few tiny small differences, particularly with the types of players that you might pick. So Game Week 27 is going to be our wildcard. In Game Week 29, we will be looking to bench boost if you still have that bench boost chip. It is the biggest double game week we're going to have this season, so that's going to give us the best opportunities to get the maximum amount of double game week players, not just in our starting 11 but also on our bench as well, to really push ourselves up the rank. After that, we are going to be looking to free hit in game week 32, and that's primarily because we're going to be loading up on Brighton players and Manchester United players by the time we get on to game week 29. So by that point, we're going to have, because we're going to have probably triple up Brighton, triple up on Manchester United as well, maybe Erling Haaland in there as well from Man City. All of those teams are likely to blank in game week 32, including Chelsea as well. If you've got Kepa in there, you're going to have a lot of blankers in 32. So it's going to be very easy to free hit them out and bring in players from Arsenal and Liverpool, who both have really good fixtures in game week 32, where there aren't too many great fixtures in that game week anyway. So you can really maximize on those two teams. So that looks really good. And then going beyond that, in game week 34, we've got another double game week. We're looking probably at Manchester United and Man City to have a double game week there. And that's going to be when you're going to be wanting to play your triple captain chip if you haven't already played it. Maybe game week 37 as well, which is going to be another double game week opportunity again for Manchester United and Man City. Those two teams, we're going to be looking at Rashford, Haaland captain for those game weeks. So all in all, this is going to be your chip strategy. I think if you've got a bench boost, 29 is perfect with this wild card, and even if you don't have a triple captain, that's fine. If you don't have a free hit chip, that's going to be fine as well. You might have to make a couple of tweaks by the time we come to game week 29, but certainly for now, this wild card is set up for the wildcard 27, bench boost 29, and then after that, you're going to have some opportunities if you have other chips, and if you don't, that's going to be absolutely fine too. So let's have a look at this team. All right, let's start off in goal with Raya. He is the undisputed best goalkeeper to go for this game week. I think everyone's probably going to agree on that one, with Sanchez being super rotation risk there. Even still, we're not 100% sure if he's going to be playing every game, particularly in the long term. So Raya is going to be our goalkeeper for Brentford, playing the double game week now and the next double game week in 29. So two double game weeks in a short period of time here, and he has a fixture in game week 28 where we're probably going to be having a few blankers in game week 28, even on a wild card. But this wild card does allow you to take advantage of the fact that we do have a blank game week and we can cover it effectively even without the use of any other chip. So that's another great advantage of the wild card now. So Raya in goal, makes a lot of saves, gets some bonus points as well. They're looking at the fixtures, particularly in game week 27, Everton and Southampton, two teams that don't typically score too many goals, so there is definitely going to be opportunities for clean sheets for Brentford. So that's what we're going to be aiming for with not just Raya, but maybe one more Brentford defender as well, which we'll explore in just one second. Moving on into defence, we've got Kieran Trippier. So yes, Newcastle have struggled for clean sheets a little bit recently, but remember, they have just played Man City and Liverpool in a row. In that Liverpool game, they did obviously have to play with 10 men for that game as well. So please don't forget that Newcastle are still a very good defence. They've still got really good defensive numbers since the World Cup break. Really good defence, and Trippier is still that very attacking guy, creating a lot. And whenever it looks like Newcastle are going to get a clean sheet, Trippier is going to hoover up those bonus points as well, even if he doesn't get any attacking contributions. But with his creativity and those set pieces, he is going to get the odd assist as well, which is very nice. Maybe get the very occasional goal, but it's really that creativity that we're looking for from Kieran Trippier. Wolves is the fixture at home. This is one of the easiest games you can have as a defender when you're looking for those clean sheets, so it makes a lot of sense to just have him and play him and take him on through the future game weeks as well. We've got a nice fixture in game week 28 against Nottingham Forest, so back-to-back clean sheets are definitely on the card, so you can cover that nicely, and a double game week in game week 29 too. Manchester United and West Ham, where we're looking probably at that West Ham fixture to get that clean sheet in. So Trippier definitely needs to be back in your team if you've removed him, or if you already have him, you do need to keep him, I believe. So next up, we're going to put Pervis Estupiñán. So Estupiñán is probably the best Brighton defender in terms of looking for those attacking returns. You know, he has that creativity, he's pushing up the pitch, he's getting the odd assist, which is really, really good. We've got 2 good fixtures for Brighton as well here. Leeds and Crystal Palace, again, 2 teams that don't score too many goals, so we do want to go in a little bit on that defence from Brighton, which is very nice. But yeah, I'm hoping that Estupinian can maybe get the odd assist in this double game week. That could be pretty nice. And then he does blank in game week 28, but again, we're going straight back in with another great opportunity in 29, Brentford at home, and then Bournemouth away. Brentford don't score too many goals when they play away from home, and Bournemouth, you know, we know they're bottom of the table right now. They're a pretty weak team in general. So, yes, another opportunity for double clean sheets potentially would be really, really nice. I can see, genuinely, Brighton, they're in pretty good defensive form. I can see them keeping 4 clean sheets in 4. I'm not going to say it's going to happen for sure, but you know that you have that opportunity. And what we're looking for in FPL is those opportunities to get those points. And Estupinian, even though he's not quite as nailed as the likes of Lewis Duncan, maybe you can go for Lewis Dunk instead if you just want that super nailed Brighton defender for the long term. Then maybe you can go for him instead. But another advantage of Purvis is the fact that even when he does start, which he does most games, sometimes he does get taken off the pitch at, you know, 60, 65 minutes, which means he locks in that clean sheet just that little bit earlier, which sometimes has been a real advantage for him. We've seen over the last kind of month or so. Definitely a good pick. And then we're going to finish off the defense with Rico Henry. Obviously, last game you might have seen he was playing really well, getting up the pitch, creating for his teammates, which was really nice to see. But particularly in these away fixtures, I've spoken about this a little bit before, but in the away fixtures, Brentford seem to be lining up with a 5 at the back formation. They try and go a little bit more defensively solid, and that also means that the wing backs are pushed up the field a little bit, and Henry playing at that as that left wing back is going to be pushed up just that little bit. Comes in at that cheap price, 4.5 million in a defensive Brentford team here who are playing some decent fixtures, particularly in game week 27. So I would be looking for that double up in the defense. I know people are going to kind of go for Ben Mee because he scored the most points historically, or they're going to go for Ethan Pinnock just because he happened to score last game week. Don't get me wrong, those picks are decent picks, but I still feel like Henry is the best. If you can only go for one Brentford defender, Rico Henry would be the guy I would go for. Let's move on into midfield, and we're looking at Mo Salah against Bournemouth, which is kind of an interesting one. I don't think Salah is an absolute must in your wildcard team, but given Salah's recent form and the fact that he's about to play Bournemouth, you do have to sit back and say, this is an opportunity maybe I don't want to miss. You know, if Salah goes off and gets another 10-pointer plus, then this is going to be really, really important that we do have him in our team, even if we do have to remove him. But the big thing with Salah is that he does blank in game week 28, so he is definitely a player you potentially remove at that point. In game week 29, with the double game week, he plays Man City and Chelsea away, 2 of the toughest defences in the league. So even though it's a double game week, 2 away fixtures, tough opposition. Is he really going to be able to do the magic against these teams? I'm not 100% convinced by that one, to be honest. So I would be looking to move him on for game week 28. You could potentially keep him, but I think that's definitely something you should consider removing him. Arsenal after that as well, another tough fixture. But I do like the idea of going for a Salah to Maddison move. So maybe go Salah to Maddison. Maddison plays Brentford in game week 28, so he has a fixture, and then Maddison has a much better double game week than Salah there as well. So Salah to Maddison in game week 28, that sorts yourself out there a little bit. Or if you don't fancy Salah, maybe you could just start off with Maddison in this position as well. Another player you could swap with Maddison is Saka. So I've put Saka in for now, and I feel like Saka is important because in game week 28, one potential trap of a game week 27 wildcard is that you find yourself with not enough Arsenal players, and Arsenal actually have a really good game week in 28 where not many other teams are playing, not many other teams have great fixtures. It could be a situation where Arsenal players are the players kind of dominating the leaderboards a little bit, so I would want to be in on Arsenal just that little bit. Saka is the player I've gone for. You could also go for Martinelli if you have a little bit more faith in him, but I like Saka the most. Super nailed on, creative, playing really well at the moment, so Saka would be my guy to go for. But again, if you are a little bit concerned about trying to maximize double game week players for game week 29, Saka to Maddison could work. That does kind of mean that Salah is going to be a player that you can't really sell anymore, or it's going to be more of a struggle to sell him because there's not really many midfielders to move to in game week 28. All of the game week 28 midfielders that look like they're going to score very well do seem to be from Arsenal. So in that sense, maybe it is better to just at least have that one Arsenal player. But again, you could swap Saka out for Maddison to get that extra double game week 29 fixture. But I would personally maybe just think about using your transfers, because you are going to have transfers to use, remember. You may as well use them a little bit. We've got Rashford next, a player that I think you just kind of got to own at the moment. I know that Liverpool game was disappointing for him, but at the same time, I would still not say that one fixture, one game kind of is going to destroy his form completely. I really hope that's not going to be the case. And Southampton at home is a really nice fixture. And we've got a decent-ish double game week in 29 as well, where Rashford is potentially our captain for game week 29 as well. Kind of looking through all of the players who do double in 29, it's kind of difficult in a way to pick out the best captain, because I don't think anyone has the perfect pair of fixtures. But if anyone we're going to trust, it's going to be, you know, a really in-form player right now. So Rashford, you've got to have him in just so you have that captain option for game week 29. Moving on to the next midfielder, it's going to be McAllister. So Alexis McAllister is the next pick, a player who did very well in game week 26, maybe turned a few heads that weren't looking in his direction before, but certainly a player I'm definitely backing to do well. McAllister is a great pick because he is a high risk, high reward player. You don't fully know where you're going to get the FPL returns from him, but he definitely has lots of avenues and lots of potential to get those FPL returns. So he has moved into the attacking midfield position. We've seen that again. Maybe more people are going to believe that it is actually playing as an attacking midfielder right now. There is still a small risk that depending on various rotations, if any players get injured, he might drop back into central defensive midfield, which will make him a lot worse. But for now, we've got to play with the cards that we're dealt. And the cards that we're dealt is a McAllister playing behind the striker, taking a lot of shots on set pieces, on penalties as well, and overall it looks really, really good for him. So you don't know whether you're going to get the free kick goal or the penalty goal. You don't know 100% that he's going to be playing as attacking midfielder every single game, but you know that if he does meet those criteria, he's going to be going for a really, really big score. So high risk, high reward, really high potential, and the more games we have from a player, the better chance you have of something like this coming up. And high volume of shots for McAllister is another thing I really do like about him. When you're taking a lot of shots on, the more fixtures you have, it's a numbers game in a way, and hopefully you're going to be able to get that goal from him as well. Creative numbers, pretty decent as well, but not quite as good as our final midfield pick, which is Solly March. So Solly March is, for me, the best midfielder from Brighton to go for right now. He is super, super creative. His teammates haven't necessarily been finishing off all of the chances that he's been creating over the last couple of game weeks, but he's showing the high volume of creativity that is kind of showing us that it is going to happen. It is only a matter of time before he starts really racking up the assists, particularly with loads and loads and loads of fixtures. He's taking a lot of shots as well, particularly inside the box. And I think that's the key difference between the likes of March and Mitoma. The two players that a lot of people are kind of debating between March and Mitoma right now. March blanks in game week 26, which has put a lot of people off him. But when you look at the two players, Mitoma kind of takes one shot per game, creates one chance per game, and although he's more clinical, what I'm looking for in a double game week is that high volume of shots, high volume of creativity, and kind of see what happens in a way. March's numbers are just simply better than Mitoma, and if you think that March is less clinical, that is fair enough, and there's nothing wrong with going for the Japanese midfielder instead. If you want to do something a little bit different, that is absolutely fine. They're all good picks, but when I'm trying to pick out just two Brighton midfielders, you force my hand to pick just two. These are the two that I would be going for. These are my two favourites. And one little bit of bonus information as well is that Leeds and Crystal Palace are conceding a lot of their chances from March's side on their left-hand side of their defence or the right-hand side of Brighton's attack. So that's going to put March certainly in the right positions to start taking those shots on in and around the box. He takes a lot of touches in the box, remember, so really, really helpful for him to kind of unleash himself a little bit there. So really like him, even a potential captain option, but we will get to that a little bit later in the video. Okay, next up, let's go up front. We've got Harry Kane, our home game against Nottingham Forest. Pretty much one of the best fixtures you can have at the moment with Nottingham Forest. Very, very poor form. Harry Kane hasn't been 100% at the races recently, but you still know that he's been such a super consistent performer over the course of this season that he is definitely worth going for. Couple decent fixtures after that as well with Southampton and Everton, and if Spurs can get back to their best, it's going to be the Harry Kane show once again. So let's see what he can do on penalties. Again, that really helps. You're going to notice that we've got a lot of penalty takers in this wildcard team. We'll get to that in a minute, but yeah, Harry Kane, another player who has just been so consistent this whole season that you can't really doubt him. And we always see this every year. Harry Kane finishes off seasons really, really strongly, and we are getting to that back end of the season now. So is this going to be Harry Kane's final little run at the end of the season, scoring loads of goals, doing really well, maybe trying to push Spurs into those, Champions League places, trying to maintain those Champions League positions for Spurs? Not sure if that's going to happen or not, but what we can tell is that even if everyone around Kane is failing, Harry Kane always delivers. He's been so consistent. And we're going to finish off with Ivan Toney. So Ivan Toney, absolutely a fantastic player to buy. The #1 transfer target, no matter who you are right now, he is the player you'll want to go for, get to, whatever. He's just it's just been too good, hasn't he? So he's got this Everton Southampton double game week, decent pair of fixtures against two teams that are relegation threatened. We think that he's going to score some more goals. His numbers have been really, really good. He's on penalties as well. Everything is looking really good for him, and he had a couple of chances last game as well to score. So Toney, third highest goal scorer in the Premier League, one of the highest scoring players in FPL this season. We're probably going to say that he is going to absolutely dominate this double game week 27 and another double game week for him in 29 as well. And he has a fixture at home against Leicester in game week 28. So that Leicester game, Leicester who have been pretty weak defensively recently, it's going to be another opportunity to get some points from Toney. One of the few opportunities really to get the points, because we really are kind of a little bit lacking in options in game week 28. It's not the best game week in the world, but if we can get just a few of those key players, even if everything around it is not amazing, even if we can't get to 11 players, I don't think it matters as long as you have the key players from game week 27. And if you're not going all in on Arsenal in that game week, then you would certainly say that maybe the Brentford attack is also a decent kind of shout in that game week as well. So with that said, let's move on to the bench, guys. We have got Kepa in goal first of all. So Kepa, very nice indeed. He's been playing pretty well recently, and potential for double game weeks further on in the season for Chelsea as well, which is pretty nice. Maybe he's going to come in really handy later on. And with the double game week that we have in game week 29, we want another goalkeeper with double game week fixtures. I think that's pretty much what we're after. Liverpool and Aston Villa there for him, so that's going to be pretty nice. We've got Watkins as well. He's got a fixture in game week 28, which is fantastic. So a decent fixture in game week 28, and then in game week 29, Watkins has got a really nice double as well. Decent fixture in 29 as well. So a good little run for Watkins here. And then we've got Botman, who again plays for Newcastle, top defence, good fixtures coming up, not just now, but kind of in the future as well. Potential for double game weeks to come along for Newcastle as well. We are expecting at some point the Newcastle versus Brighton fixture to be rearranged for some point. We're not exactly sure when. Game week 30, 31, definitely possible that we could have a double game week for the Newcastle boys there, which is pretty nice. And then we've got Chilwell here as well. So yeah, interesting one. Chilwell, I think, is definitely back in the conversation. Chelsea seem to have moved back to a back three formation, which means Chilwell is playing very high up on the left-hand side, and he's really been displaying his creativity recently, not just in the Premier League, but in the Champions League as well. We've seen that. So that could be a real key factor of Chelsea turning around their season, getting Chilwell just a little bit higher up the pitch. Now, you could go for Chilwell, but you could also go for Reece James. Reece James has kind of hurt me too many times in the past for me to really be too confident in suggesting him. But one interesting thing about Reece James is, despite all his injury problems and despite the fact that you never know if he's going to be able to play every single game, he is potentially on penalties, which is something we've read recently. The penalties for Chelsea are going to be between Reece James and Kai Havertz. And considering Kai Havertz kind of missed his first penalty, he got to retake it because he kind of missed that penalty. Maybe it's going to be Reece James taking the next penalty, and if so, that's going to be pretty nice as well. Of course, these players are going to be coming in for your Game Week 28 team, and things will start to switch around. So yeah, in Game Week 28, what we're looking at here is a few players who do indeed blank. So Estupinian, McAllister, March, the three Brighton players, they are going to blank in Game Week 28, as is Salah and Rashford. Now, using your one free transfer, I would probably recommend to maybe swap out Salah for Maddison and keep those Brighton boys, because Brighton, remember, are going to have loads of more double game weeks in the future. So we do want to be keeping those Brighton players for as long as we physically can, really, free hitting them out in Game Week 32. But Salah to Maddison gives us 10 playing players for Game Week 28. But I think that's okay. I genuinely really don't think you're going to need 11 players. I think the average FPL player is probably only going to have around 8 players. The top FPL managers as well, they're still only going to have 9 or 10 players themselves. So don't worry too much about getting 11 players. It's probably not worth a hit, because there's not too many players with real high scoring possibilities, I suppose. So I think you genuinely can afford to go with 10 men as long as the players that you do have are the right players. And there are a lot of players that are the right players. You know, Newcastle defenders, Saka against Crystal Palace. We've got Tony against Leicester as well. A couple of other Leicester players in there. It's actually going to look pretty decent. Harry Kane, potential captain option against Southampton in game week 28 as well. So you've got the right players. So it doesn't matter if you don't have a full 11. I honestly, I would not sacrifice your team of game week 27. I wouldn't sacrifice your team for game week 29 just to get more players in 28. I don't think it's worth it because the players you're going to be bringing in are probably going to be fairly low ceiling players anyway. So don't worry about it. Let's put all of our focus on 27 and 29 and just try and cover 28 to the best of our ability. Now, by the time we get to game week 29, we would be looking to make a couple of moves again. So maybe you can consider going for Saka to Fernandes, for example. Maybe you can get in another Manchester United player. That's possible as well. I think that's definitely possible. You could even do Kepa to De Gea and do that like in your game week 27 wildcard team to get another Manchester United player in if you want to go for a little bit more on the Manchester United side there as well. We probably should be holding a bit of money in the bank to try and get Tony up to Erling Haaland, but we don't really want to be doing that until game week 30. But certainly you are going to need to downgrade Salah in order to do that. So that's why I do like downgrading Salah for game week 28. Putting that money in the bank. It doesn't matter if you've got a load of money in the bank. As long as you've got good players, it's all good in the hood. And then Haaland will come back into your team for Tony in game week 30. That's going to be around the time Tony starts to be at a little bit of a risk of a ban at that point anyway. So that could be a really good time to remove him indeed. Plus, you're going to get some doubles from Man City as well. You're going to want to have at least Erling Haaland in your team. And maybe we can start looking at Manchester City players after that, but not so much right now. And that pretty much concludes the team and how it would kind of be set up, what kind of transfers you would make in the future. You would be looking for Manchester United players. You would be looking to see if you can maximize game week 29. By game week 29, you should have 13 or 14 double game week players, and the single game week players will be, you know, Saka and Kane. Saka and Kane, fantastic FPL options with great fixtures. Saka will be against Leeds, Kane will be against Everton. So even as single game week players, they are definitely not too bad at all, really, are they? So that's absolutely going to be fine to have those players. But again, we could potentially think about switching Saka to Maddison or, you know, Saka to Fernandes, something like that. It depends on your budget a lot and how you want to play out the rest of the season, what kind of chips you have remaining. I wouldn't go too heavy on Manchester United, for example, if you don't have a free hit remaining. But yeah, that's basically what I would say would be the kind of transfer moves you can make. Of course, this is just a template. Feel free to tweak it around a little bit because it's not going to be perfect for everyone, but hopefully something roughly like this is going to suit most people's needs, and it does have a strategy behind it as well. So it's not just throwing players on the pitch. We've got a plan here with a wildcard team like this. And finally, guys, let's just talk about captaincy because there is a player that I think should be your captain in game week 27. The player who is my favourite captain for game week 27, and that is Ivan Toney, playing against Everton and Southampton. Two good fixtures for a top forward in the Premier League on penalties as well. Double the opportunities to get lucky. He is the key and talisman to everything that Brentford do, and therefore if Brentford are scoring goals in this double game week, it's probably going to come through Ivan Toney, which you can't really say the same thing about Brighton. Even though Brighton are probably a better attack, there is a lot more kind of avenues for them to get goals. Different players scoring goals. McAllister, March, we've got Evan Ferguson, of course, and Kaoru Misama, who we've spoken about before as well. But I still would say that March would be my vice captain in this team, and I think he's a good alternative captain. And I think March will be very, very differential as a captain as well, because not a lot of people look at the underlying numbers for Brighton. Not a lot of people watch the games that Brighton play, and therefore, because March blanked last week, because he hasn't scored an insane amount of FPL points over the last couple of game weeks, you know, it is going to lead a lot of people away from March when March is actually a super FPL asset. So we're going to put the vice captain on him, but genuinely, if you want to go really differential this week, I would seriously consider captaining Solly March in game week 27 as well. And that's going to be your wildcard team for game week 27, complete with a plan. I think this is really good. Even if you're not on a wildcard right now, I would still be trying to aim towards a team that looks something like this. So I think this video is going to be helpful for people, even people who aren't on a wild card. If you can get your team to something that looks a little like this, I think you're going to be in really good stead for the remaining game weeks of this season. So there we are, game week 27 wild card. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you wouldn't mind dropping a like and subscribing if you're new around here, that would be massively appreciated. It is a double upload day today, so we have still got the 100 experts video to come, so stay tuned for that one. That will be dropping this evening. Looking forward to seeing the results of that video as always. Always a interesting one for sure, isn't it? Then regular content for the rest of the week indeed. So there we go, guys. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.